pieces of sports news that I want to talk about. Two particular recent bits of sporting news that, based on the scale, let's say, of the news and perhaps what we can learn from it, I feel is worth a bit of examination. Now, I'm recording this video on Saturday. It's gonna go up on Monday. So, if there's any new developments on any of this stuff in the meantime, any little details or anything that's different, my bad. Let's talk about the first piece of news, and let's talk about Shohei Ohtani. Now, a few weeks back, maybe a month or two ago at this point, the story initially broke. People were saying that Shohei Ohtani had sent $4.5 million to his interpreter, Ibe Mizuhara, to cover illegal gambling debts. And it was this big scandal. And then it looked like, at least from the outside, that Shohei's story had changed. And it was causing all this controversy. People thought that maybe eBay was the fall guy, maybe Shohei was doing the gambling, maybe there were some other uncouth things going on. Yada yada yada, all these things happen. But then today it comes out there has been a federal investigation into all this, and it has completely exonerated Shohei Ohtani. eBay, I think, is facing up to like 30 years in federal prison. So here's this article from The Guardian. The former interpreter for the Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani is being charged with federal bank fraud for crimes involving gambling debts and thefts of millions of dollars, federal authorities said on Thursday. Mizuhara helped Ohtani set up a bank account for Ohtani's baseball salary. Estrada says Mizuhara stole more than $16 million from Ohtani's bank accounts to pay for his own sports betting and lied to the bank to access the account. Due to the position of trust he occupied Mr. Ohtani, he was able to use and abuse that trust in order to plunder Mr. Ohtani's bank account. Estrada also confirmed that when Mizuhara did not deposit any gambling winnings into Ohtani's account. There's more. He stole more than $16 million in total. And I think this is going back to 2021. He won more than $140 million gambling, but lost more than $180 million gambling, so he was more than $40 million in the hole. But I only stole $16 million, so like $24-ish million he was still like, had no way of accounting for. And it's come out that like he was calling into the bank and impersonating Shohei. He had placed 19,000 bets in 3 years, which is, I think somebody said, is more than like 20 bets per day. Like, dude is just the definition of a degenerate gambler. And, you know, and then some other things came out around this. This is all gonna be, I haven't scripted this out, but, his accountants, the agency that Shohei goes through, I believe it's CAA, do not have a single member of staff that speaks Japanese, so eBay was always the go-between guy for the agency and Shohei. And there was a few occasions where Shohei's accountants were asking for access to the account that is mentioned in the lawsuit. Or not the lawsuit, but the case, the federal case. And eBay would lie to them and say that Shohei wants to keep that private. And then there's some other details, like Shohei didn't even have a bank app installed on his phone. He had no way of checking those accounts. eBay had turned off notifications for Shohei. eBay's phone number was linked to the account. Like, all this stuff. And the reason I bring this up is because I saw so much when this story first broke. So many people immediately assuming the worst. That, like, the most marketable star baseball has had in decades, if not ever. There were people, like, frothing at the mouth, giddy, delighted, desperate for him to have done these things, desperate for him to be a degenerate gambler illegally. And as best as I could tell, the only real crime he had committed was signing a contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. In these people's minds, I saw it especially from Padres fans, weirdly enough, like Red Sox fans. And now that the Department of Justice has come out, like, a majority of these people are, like, tepidly accepting this as fact, but there's still, like, a big contingent of people saying that Shohei is still involved somehow. I saw people, like, unironically posting, like, oh, because the government has never been corrupt, like, the federal government cares about protecting the image of Shohei Ohtani, a foreigner, right? And I think this really illustrates the multiple dangers, and this is something that I have talked about in sports, a problem with sports culture, especially internet sports culture, for years, and that is the tribalism that is born out of internet sports culture, especially in the social media age. I am not a person that engages in any sort of, like, trash talking, or, you know, you'll see some people and all they do, like, you see certain Twitter accounts, and all these Twitter accounts do is they go around, like, talking trash to other teams. It's like, bro, do you literally not have anything better to do with your life than this? And that tribalism, especially with regards to, like, teams that the broad sporting fan base has deemed enemies, it gets so tribal and just like mob mentality, and I've experienced that as a fan of the Vegas Golden Knights. I feel extremely unwelcome in the internet hockey community at large. Every time, like, on my personal social media and stuff, I've gone and tried to engage with hockey social media, there's always been vitriol and pushback against me, simply because of the team that I choose to support, and I've never understood that mentality. It honestly seems counterintuitive to the growth and health of the sport. If you're a fan of a sport, you should want as many fans accessing the sport, new fans coming into the fold as possible. And I feel like certain sports are better at that than others. Hockey and baseball especially feel very gatekeepy for outsiders. And I think this entire Shohei Ohtani situation is a great opportunity for not only baseball fans, but sports fans at large, and honestly with anything, to reflect on how they choose to interact with and consume their media, their news information. Because if you're one of those people that saw this story break a month or two ago, whatever it was, and your first reaction was to immediately start attacking Shohei Ohtani's character, even though he has, in his history, had nothing but a perfectly squeaky clean record. He's never put a single foot wrong, from what I can tell. Meanwhile, there's players like Wander Franco going around, right? But and you have to ask yourself, if Shohei Ohtani, let's say you were one of those people, if Shohei Ohtani had signed with your favorite team in the offseason, would you react the same way? Or if he had signed with a team that's not the Dodgers, or let's say the Yankees, like if he was a Blue Jay, or if he was an Oriole, would you be like, you know what, guys, let's wait? But because he signed with the Dodgers, you're like, oh no, attack, he did something wrong. And it was baffling to see, and there's been plenty of people that have walked back their statements. I have to give them credit for that. At least it is hard to admit you're wrong. But there's a lot of people who just haven't addressed it, all the things they've said in the past. Or they've kind of hand-waved it away. A big one that bugged me was Rich Eisen. Because I generally like Rich Eisen. But he was going on and on about Shohei did this and this, And then today, when he was covering this, he barely issued an apology. He was like, oh, I'm just asking questions, whatever. And it's asking questions is fine, but there's a proper way to go about this, and it's we have to be better than this. We have to be, and it's unhealthy, and this goes for even outside of sports fandom. But I don't know what it is, but it feels like nowadays, and I don't know if this is a post-COVID thing or what's up, but everybody is just so ready to jump down people's neck at a moment's notice, and I see it in my own comment section. I delete tons of comments on my videos that you guys never see. And I have filters and stuff set up on my comments, so a lot of the stuff never even shows up. I am the only person that sees it. But it's why are we all walking around so angry all the time? Just waiting for an excuse to make somebody else as miserable as us. I don't get it. Because I don't remember things being like this when I was younger. And it's not even in sports, but just in general, people weren't this mad all the time. And you'll see people, I go on Reddit and Twitter, and you see people, that's all they do all day. I saw this one dude, and he legit probably had 50 comments in a 4-hour span, and all he was doing was just arguing, calling people names, getting mad. And it's bro, how did you do that for 4 hours and not take 1 second to reflect on what it was you were doing with your time? And in my opinion, this story, and this is the reason I wanted to talk about that, this story with Shohei is the perfect moment for sports fans especially to reflect on how you are engaging with things, both online and your personal life. because it was pretty clear to me from the out. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm smarter than everybody else, whatever. But I was like, you're trying to convince me. Is that a moth on my... I have a moth on my shoulder. He doesn't want to go away. You're trying to convince me that the dude who has a squeaky clean record is now all of a sudden $4.5 million in gambling debt to an illegal bookie, and you're just accepting that whole cloth without any further evidence, any self-reflection, anything. It was clear to me from the outset that something was not right. And ultimately, yes, it's been revealed that something was not right. Shohei did not know that eBay was going to give that interview claiming that Shohei wired him the money to help him cover his debts. That, Shohei had no knowledge in any of that. And he was stealing from him, committing bank fraud. Probably more types of fraud than even that. If you look at the lying to the accountants and the agents and stuff, that's probably another type of fraud that I'm not aware of. And from the beginning, it seemed like the only logical thing to do was ask questions and be like, okay, well, this obviously isn't right. Shohei doesn't seem like the type, and I saw so many people that are like, you don't really know him, this is why you can't trust anybody, da-da-da-da-da. And to a certain extent, okay, but to a certain extent, you have to not be willing to just immediately think like this. And if you're one of those people that got caught up in this, I'm not attacking you. It happens to everybody. It's happened to me in the past with other things, especially when I was younger. And then you look back, you're like, man, what was I even... Why did I even get caught up in that? And you can't even explain it to yourself. But if you're one of those people, like, think about it. Think about, why were you mad? And were you directing that anger to the right place? Like, I'm mad that the Seattle Mariners turned into trash and they didn't put in a competitive offer for anybody. And I'm mad that Shohei Ohtani isn't on the Seattle Mariners roster. But I don't hold that against him. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not the owner that decides. He doesn't actually care and just only cares about making money. And if you're a fan of a team that's in that spot and you have a bad owner or a bad front office, a cheapskate, whatever the issue is, you're not mad at anybody but them, and you need to direct your energy accordingly. I don't know, just that felt like something, to talk about. And then this next thing is this Arizona Coyotes relocation. So I'm just gonna read the article in the Hockey News. Coyotes potential Salt Lake City relocation sale gaining traction. Various reports emerged Wednesday with the Daily Faceoff's Frank Zaravelli first to break the news, placing a very real possibility that the Coyotes could relocate from the Phoenix area to Salt Lake City, with Jazz owner Ryan Smith potentially purchasing the franchise from current owner Alex Meruelo. The league is continuing to work on a solution to what has been a challenging and difficult situation. We're not in a position to comment beyond that. Zaravelli also indicated that significant and meaningful progress has been made between the league, Coyotes, and Smith Entertainment Group that would lead to the sale and relocation of the hockey franchise. Now what's funny is this is happening when the Coyotes are having one of their more exciting seasons in recent years. They're 34-40, but they're doing way better than the Blackhawks, better than the Ducks. little bit better than the Kraken, better, it feels like they're starting to build up an identity. They have some good young players. And then this happens. And I know a lot of hockey fans are going to be like celebrating this, but good, whatever. But again, another learning moment from this. Someone is losing their team. And again, this goes back to what I talked about earlier with hockey fans. It feels hockey beyond, more so than any other sport in North America, feels very gatekeepy among fans. They want it to be a tight-knit club, and I don't know why that is. Especially now that they have Lionel Messi knocking on the door, and the NHL is in a real threat, in my opinion, of falling out of the Big Four. Falling down to the number 5 spot. I mean, realistically, it already is. College football's bigger, college basketball's bigger. I mean, so realistically, NHL's probably already 6th, but it could get surpassed by MLS soon. When there are still people losing the team and going to Salt Lake City. Now, this is the weird thing to me. Salt Lake City has a city population of 204,657. The city of Phoenix has 1.6 million. Okay, let's go with the metro. The metro area for Salt Lake City is 1,257,936. Phoenix is 4,845,832. So, about 4 times larger population. And honestly, for people like, why are the Coyotes still there, yada yada yada, that is why. Because, I don't know if it's still true, but a few years ago it was true. Phoenix, Arizona is the fastest growing city in the United States. It's one of my favorite cities in the United States. I absolutely love Phoenix. I spent a lot of time there. And that is why the league wants that market, because people talk about putting a team in Quebec City or putting our team in Toronto. You don't understand. The NHL already has those fans. Those people are already watching. Those people are already paying. Those people are already supporting something. The NHL, if it wants to compete with the NBA, if it wants to compete with the MLB, if it wants to compete with the NFL, if it wants to remain competitive, and if it wants to outpace MLS, which is seeing an explosion right now. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, MLS could surpass the NHL. They need more fans. They need people who have never watched a hockey game before to become hardcore fans, to buy jerseys, to buy season tickets. That's the only way they keep up with the other leagues. So in that regard, Salt Lake City does make sense. Because they only have one other professional sports team there, and I looked at attendance. The Jazz were 14th in attendance this year. They average 18,206. I'm going to compare that. The Suns, who are also in the NBA, they were 25th in attendance with 17,071, which is crazy to me with that team that Phoenix has. They have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and they're 25th in attendance. That feels low. But this didn't sit right with me for another reason, and that's because the Coyotes put in that bid on the public land site, and that auction isn't up until June. But they're saying they could move the team by the end of the month. So I'm like, well, why do they still have that bid then? Because I know Meruelo, his whole thing was he needed a big development. He's like, just an arena isn't good enough. He needs to have an arena. He needs to have like a district, like food options, things like that, like an entertainment district around the arena. And he was saying that he needs a sports book on location, or else he won't build an arena. And this location accommodated all of that. And I was looking, and I was like, they haven't withdrawn their bid. And then I found this next piece of information, and this piece of information is not being talked about as much. If the Arizona Coyotes are relocated to Salt Lake City, whoever buys the team would be paying $1.2 billion to the NHL as a relocation fee. But they also have to pay Meruelo himself $1 billion to buy the team, so $2.1 billion total. But $1 billion of that just goes to the owner of the Arizona Coyotes. And there's a caveat in this. The sale includes an offer to Meruelo of a 5-year exclusive window for an expansion franchise to bring the Coyotes back to the Phoenix area, which the NHL intends to do. So I'm going to... So Alex Meruelo, this is what's going to happen. He is going to sell the team. He is going to get $1 billion. The team and all of its assets move to Salt Lake City. All the players, all the contracts, bye-bye. He's going to buy that piece of property. Over the next 5 years, he is going to build an arena with an entertainment district and a sports book. And by 2029 or 2030, he is going to be awarded, because he is contractually, it's contracted to him, it's like they can deny it. He's going to be awarded an expansion franchise called the Arizona Coyotes, which is going to be a different team, where he's going to be able to do an expansion draft of all new players on different contracts. None of the baggage, but I'm assuming he still has the logo and branding rights. And he is going to pay less in an expansion fee than he got paid for the team to go to, because the Kraken paid $650 million for their expansion fee. So when he pays that expansion fee to bring the Coyotes back as team number 33 in the NHL, or 34 at that point, if another expansion team has been introduced, he's probably going to be paying less than the $1 billion he got paid to sell the team in the first place. And again, this is all just me kind of connecting the dots here. I might be totally out of left field, but this is what it seems to me. He has a 5-year exclusive window, contractually obligated, and it says the NHL wants to bring an expansion team to the Phoenix area after the current team in the Phoenix area relocates to Salt Lake City. Because I've been saying this, the NHL is never going to give up on the Phoenix market, because Phoenix is the golden ticket to their financial growth. If they can get Phoenix to work, and then maybe like Houston would be another big one, but the NHL needs to target these big multi-sport cities and break in. And they need to, like, that's how they're gonna survive. And the thing is, that arena, that's probably all gonna be tax breaks, taxpayer money. He's gonna be making money on this deal, because for the next 4 or 5 years, he does not have to pay player contracts. He doesn't have to pay for arena maintenance. He doesn't have to pay travel. He has no expenses beyond whatever it costs him to develop the arena, but he's not paying to ice a roster. And he gets to come in with a completely clean slate when it's all said and done. And that's just, it is so blatant, and it's spitting in the face of Coyotes fans, and it's honestly, it's insulting the intelligence of hockey fans in general. Like, you connect the dots, you can see right through this, and he's like, oh, it's a way for him to save and make money. And the worst thing is, there are absolutely hockey fans right now taking a victory lap after this news. Like, this is some sort of victory for the integrity of the sport or something, getting it out of Phoenix. When in reality, all that's happened is a billionaire has found a way to make himself even more money. And he's going to be getting a brand new arena with a sports book where he's probably going to be getting a percentage of all gambling profits and all this other stuff. And it's like, what are you guys even talking about? How are you at all? There is nothing positive about this story unless you're a Salt Lake City fan. If you're a hockey fan in Salt Lake City or in the Utah area, this is good news. And I love Salt Lake City. I had a very nice cop not give me a ticket after I ran a stop sign in Salt Lake City. So, nothing wrong there. But if everyone else taking a victory lap right now, think about what you're actually celebrating. Not only celebrating a bunch of fans losing their team, you're gonna set back interest in hockey in the area, so when the NHL does inevitably go back to Arizona for the third time, I think it'll be the third time at this point, they have to start from square one again. And this dude, who by all accounts, Alex Mariuello, is a real dirtbag, allegedly, don't sue me, is lining his pockets with even more money. So what are you celebrating? Or are you just happy because a bunch of people are sad about this news? Is that what makes you happy? Again, two pieces of news that, in my opinion, I just saw the opportunity for reflection here, maybe a bit of a moral lesson. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I've engaged in shitty behavior, but reflect and think and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Why do I do these things? And I think that it's healthy to do that from time to time. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought about this whole situation. I hope I didn't come off too sanctimonious here. Just, this has been on my mind after reading all this. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. This moth is still just hanging out. And until next time, guys.